Greetings, Saber fans. Control Pal Meg2 Sith. Gonna do a live video today. Gonna try to get more of these in on the page. Everybody seems to like them. Gives me some ideas, gets me brainstorming. And this one's gonna be extra special. I don't even know if we're gonna get anybody. You know, a lot of people are. It's Friday and they're like, "Hey, I'm getting off work early. Getting off work early." And maybe they're watching in the phone on their car on the way home. Maybe they're home already. You did a federal Friday and you got off work early. But the bottom line is I got a couple sabers. I ordered this one from Saberforge. I kind of liked it. And it's empty. And this is their, I guess their Kanan Jarus type saber. You know, it's pretty big. But I got it empty, and you know, I'm going to install this. I'm going to put a recharge port in it, MHS B6 chassis, and then I also got a grab bag, and I got this one. So I got two Saberforge sabers. I'm sorry, not Saberforge, Ultrasaber sabers, and you know, this one's like a stunt install. It's just, you know, no sound or nothing. But since Ultrasabers is MHS compatible, you know, I figured I would do some MHS mashup stuff on this one. Maybe some shrouds, probably a external recharge port, MHS V6 chassis. But here's the thing. So I got something special here. The Crystal Focus 10. There she is. Crystal Focus 10 by Plector Labs. And I'm going to do a Crystal Focus 10 install just to get it down. You know, I mean, Crystal Focus 10, I mean, the only reason I think Crystal Focus 10 would make a good board for me is for all the accent LEDs, because you can run so many accent LEDs off it. Neither of these sabers will probably have a lot of accent LEDs. I don't know where you'd put any on this one. But at either rate, one of these is going to get Crystal Focus 10. I just don't know which one yet. You see my DB6 over here. That's my that's actually my Profi 2.2 saber there is charging. Put it back on the charge. Reset my charger. So, do you know how to work out the kinks with accent crystal chamber LEDs for a CF10 install on a Star Killer hilt? So the LEDs line with the blade color. Yeah, well, one way you can do that, I don't know, you know, when I did my Star Killer installs, let me find it here. So here's one of my Star Killers that I'm still working on. You can see it's empty. But what I do is for the crystal chamber, and the two Star Killers that I've already installed and sold. And by the way, this is a Phoenix Prop 7-chamber Star Killer, and it's still rough, so all the weathering's still really rough on it. But you know, I'm going to knock some of that weathering down so it's not quite so crazy, and I still got to weather the rabbit ears. But at any rate, how do I deal with that? So in mine, I used an RGB LED, and in Profi, you can do it with just a standard RGB LED. In Crystal Focus, I think you're going to have to use a either a straw hat neopixel or a cut off pixel from a strip. The problem with Crystal Focus to get them parallel, and I'm still reading the manual, so I don't know on Crystal Focus 10 how that's going to work, except for I know if you put the pixel that's illuminating the chamber behind the chamber and use the same pixels are in your blade, and then wire that in parallel with your blade. In other words, that pixel in the chamber is the first pixel on your LED on your strip. in your blade. If you think about it that way, that's how I would solve it on Crystal Focus. There might be other unique ways to do it on Crystal Focus. You know, I'm more of a Profi guy than you know, on Profis it's easy. So on Profis, basically what you do is you run your main blade off 3 of these FETs, and then you can run your crystal chamber off the other FETs. And then, you know, your first data pad over here, you run your main blade, and the second data pad, you run your auxiliary blade, and you can have them mirror each other. But when you're using just a standard RGB LED, what happens is the Profi sends power to each of the FETs. And you know, you have your red hooked up to FET like 4, green hooked up to 5, and blue hooked up to 6. And the Profi knows how to translate those colors. And the Profi will turn on whichever FET or multiple FETs you need to get the different effects and all that are happening in the NeoPixel blade. And that way the Profi, through a standard RGB LED, can actually match the, you know, can match NeoPixel effects. I mean, it's really cool. You know, I think Dimitri Stock, I think he came out with a switch solution for a NeoPixel switch. But his switch solution, you just use a standard RGB straw hat LED. Let me see if I can find one. I know I should have a bunch of them in my toolbox there behind me. So, yeah. So this is what I use in a lot of my chambers, including on NeoPixel sabers, because the cool thing about Profi, this is a typical straw hat RGB LED. You know, the long post is positive. So the longest post there is positive. The one next to it is red, and then green, and then blue is the outside. That's how those work. But you know, they have to be resistored, and also in this package is resistors. And I buy these kits from www.saberigniter.com from Scott at Nigon. And those are awesome. I mean, he sends you the resistors and the LED for one low price. It's just a easy way to do that. Now, I just don't know if you can do that on Crystal Focus or not. I'm still reading the manual, but I can tell you that what you can do is when you're putting in your Neo, when you're putting in your pixel that's illuminating the crystal chamber here, you just wire that pixel from the same wires that you're feeding out of your Crystal Focus that are feeding your blade. You wire that crystal off those same pads, and then you know you can run additional wires like up through the switch housing. That's where I route my wires on these, and then up into your NeoPixel adapter inside the hilt. That's kind of what I would do. So getting back to the initial question, which does Crystal Focus go into? Which of these sabers should it go into? This one, which, you know, Ultrasabers are huge, but this is a pretty cool looking saber. Or this one, you know, this is just your typical Ultrasabers standard thing. I've already done one of these with a Profi, and it came out awesome. I actually did a 12 millimeter illuminated button there. I did a second button behind it, and I did a recharge port on the back side here. So I'm pretty much, yeah, I mean, it's Kanan Jarus. I mean, that's Ultrasaber's Kanan Jarus. And this, you know, is a steal for a Kanan Jarus hilt. And I got the etching, which I'm sure was done with a laser, you know, but the bottom line is that is really a pretty cool hilt from Ultrasabers. I think one of the prettiest hilts that they've come out with, and I got it vented, you know, so it'll let light out through these vents. That's a pretty cool hilt. The only problem is if I put the Crystal Focus in it, well, it's going to be the same problem on both, is I'm going to have to come up with a second button solution. So, you know, and I've done that on Ultrasabers before. If you go to my channel and you look at Ultrasabers or Mara Jade, Profi, no, I think it was a Teensy Saber Mara Jade that I did. It was an Ultrasabers, and basically it has the same switch housing. And what I did is I turned this into the recharge port and this into the auxiliary button, and then I had to glue, you know, this onto the hilt. But you know, I got a secondary auxiliary button here where this screw goes, and then I had a 1.3 millimeter recharge port in this hole. Man, that was tight doing that. Holy crap. When I did that one, I was like, I don't know if this is going to work. Now I was telling the customer, I'm like, I don't know, you know, I'm trying something new here. You know, technically this isn't how this is supposed to go, but you know, which one of those you think I should put the crystal focus in? This one's getting profy. I already know this one's getting profy, and I'll probably be selling this. And I got a bunch of other sabers out there. Let me empties. I got tons of empties. Tons of empties. There's another one that's empty. Still doing some paint work on this, but eventually I'm going to have this one installed with Profi. This is my cross guard, and I'll install it with Profi. And I've done a lot of wear and tear on this one, so it's like kind of like TFA looking. Sorry, lost one of my NeoPixel adapters in there. I've already honed out the emitters for 7/8, so I'm going to be building this and selling it on the webs. So that's another saber I got to build. But want to learn how to do these. Want to learn how to do the crystal focus, just in case people want it. I can do it. Y'all know I'm a Profi teensy saber kind of guy. And I really have no loyalty to any brand. I mean, I'll install NEC, I'll install Profi, I'll install Teensy Sabers, Prism, Nano Biscotti, and I don't know how much longer. You know, there's a Prism 5.5, and there's like 3 brand new Nano Biscottis. So I mean, I'll install anything. You know, I got a bunch of NEC boards in here. I got a brand new Spark Color at home, but for the most part, you know, I like installing the Profis and the Teensy Sabers and NeoPixels. I built a NeoPixel blade today. It came out awesome. That's for this saber here. I want to show you all this, and that way, if the customer comes in, he can see it too. Did an ESB, and I got to order another damn clamp card. I was adjusting the clamp card on the back so the clamp switches work, and the Dremel whoop, popped around and hit the other side, but the bottom line is this saber is pretty freaking wild. Wanted to throw this one out there. So it's a Corbanth Graflex 2.5, and it's got the Goth 3D chassis in it, twist and kill key. Little Cylon action going there. And then when you activate, and then when you turn it off, it goes back to your Cylon action. This is a pretty cool little saber here. I might as well show you all the crystal chamber while I have it out. I'm not done painting this one yet. I'm still painting this one. This is for a customer in California. Right now it only has the rough paint job on the chassis, but there's the whole chassis, which, you know, this chassis came white, and then I added, you know, everything. Pretty cool little saber. You know, these Goth Knight chassis and these 2.5s, they're a lot of fun. You can see the Profi in there and the SD card access. This is a really nice saber. He wanted an ESB configuration, so you know, it's an ESB configuration with the second red button. I know the ESB is not supposed to have the beer tab or the screw holding in the beer tab, but he wanted to keep the beer tab. And the cool part about that was, let me turn this off, is not only that, you can remove the red button, which is your blade retention on this one. And I did a brass eye, which you can also put in the brass eye and kind of turn it into a quasi TFA looking saber as well. So this one can be TFA or ESB. And I did the, when I did the, put the hilt back on. When I did the, the back, I did these rivets. And, you know, the bad part is I don't think y'all can see, but the light shines through on those. Let me turn the light off. Maybe you can see that. Probably going to drive the camera crazy, but you can see the light going through those. Or not. You can see it in person, but it's not really showing up on that camera that good. But at any rate, this is for a customer in California, so this one's almost done. And then after that, I got two of these frog sabers that I got to do. Show y'all one of them. I know y'all seen Dimitri's install of this thing, but you know, I guess this one's dead. Battery's dead on this one. It's all right. I'm gonna do Dimitri's chassis inside this for the 18650 and the Profi 1.5. That's gonna be pretty awesome. Whoever installed this before me did a mess on the pommel, but I have another one. So basically, I'm gonna take both of these sabers and make one good one out of all of them. But again, point of this video is which one gets CFX? You guys tell me. You know, I'm going to do some shroud work and some other stuff on this basic Ultrasabers to make it, you know, somewhat better. But everybody's like, you're going to put CFX in an Ultrasabers? Man, I'm just learning how to install the things. It'll be NeoPixel and all, but I'm almost thinking I ought to put a Profi in this thing and use the one button mods. And then, you know, I could probably sell that one out. This is going to be a cool saber when I get done with it. NeoPixel, 1-inch blade. The thing will be awesome. And then I can do the CFX in this, and everybody will be like, oh my God, put a CFX in a Ultrasabers? It's like a travesty. It's like putting a $1,000 stereo in a $10 car. But, you know, here in the next coming month, hopefully before December, I'm really hoping to have both of these sabers done and up for sale. Both of these will be on my YouTube channel for sale. Of course, they're both going to be Profi and NeoPixels. There goes my NeoPixel 7/8 adapter falling out of the Corbanth crossguard. And, you know, of course, the emitter on this one's heat treated. And, you know, got all that cool weathering going on. I've even weathered the grips. I don't know if y'all can see the grips are weathered too, but, you know, I got to knock some of this down and all that rust, which is pretty cool how I'm doing all that. But this one's ready to be installed. This one's going to have some custom crystal chamber stuff going on too, including some Dark Chasm conduit. So I got a lot happening. So for anybody else that's not watching, you know, send me what you want. What do you want me to do the crystal focus in? Or you want me to do crystal focus in something else? I actually have a an LS6 I'm going to install, but I think I want Profi in that because I'm using a different board in the control panel. Let me show you. So I already have the chassis for this thing, but I have a different board that goes in the control panel here, and it actually is NeoPixels, and each of these arrows will be lit up by NeoPixels, and I can program them on the Profi to do all kinds of crazy stuff. And, you know, of course, this will be activation and retraction, the buttons here on the LS6. I know everybody hates the LS6, and go back to Shamim's Flappy Bird, Flappy, Flappy Bird. But I'm gonna Dremel down the doors so that they close more fully, so you don't get that line. You know, the LS6 is okay. I mean, it's all right. It's not a horrible hilt. It could have been better, but you know, I've already got the chassis for that one. I don't know if y'all can see that, but that's a Goth chassis, and this one with the crystal chamber. You know, it's ready to go. And there's where the 18650 will be at, and that'll be NeoPixel when I'm done with it. So I really didn't want to do crystal focus in this one because I have plans for the Profi on that one, but pretty good to you. Maybe installing a CFX and Ultrasaber stunt sabers would cause quite the outrage in this community. Would be pretty unique. Well, the funny thing is so I've installed I've already installed a Profi in an Ultrasabers like this. I think it's if you go to my YouTube channel and you go to the custom install playlist, should be like Reezer Ultrasabers, or the greatest Ultrasabers on the planet. And I actually installed an Ultrasabers just like this, except it was black, with silver trim rings on it. And you know, I did a 12 millimeter illuminated button here. I did a second auxiliary button behind it, and then I had a 2.1 millimeter recharge port on the back side, and also had a 7/8 adapter in it, so I could run 7/8 inch blades on the Ultrasabers. It'll run a 1 inch or a 7/8. I'm not going to do that on this one. This one will just be, you know, 7/8. I'm sorry, 1 inch. NeoPixel thing would be pretty awesome. But yeah, I mean, when I installed that saber, you guys should go read the comments on it, because a lot of people are like, "What the hell are you doing? Installing a Profi in that? That's like installing a, you know, $10,000 stereo system in a $100 car." And you know, it is what it is. But this is where the madness takes place here behind me. You can see I got my wiring diagrams and all just taped up on the wall in here. This is my little workstation. You know, I used to build sabers out in my garage, and in the summers here in North Carolina, oh my God, it's brutal, brutal, and that's an understatement. But this is where all the magic takes place for Meg 2 Sis sabers, is right here on the old workbench. Got a lot of stuff going on up here, building a lot of sabers. You know, I don't need any more sabers for myself, but you know, got a lot in queue. But at any rate, if anybody else has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. There's only 3 people on. I picked a bad time to live stream. It's okay. If anybody watches this later after we end the live stream, then, you know, by all means ask questions, and I'll try and keep up with it. And if anybody else wants to comment about which one of these gets the crystal focus, let me know. CFX, ready to roll. Which of these hilts should it go in? The Jarus or the crappy Ultrasabers? I almost think I should just put it in this one just for kicks and giggles, just to see all the negative responses. I don't know why all the negative responses about Ultrasabers. I mean, this thing is kind of big, but it is a beautiful, beautiful hilt. I mean, the machine work and the design work that went into this is, you know, I like it. For a mass-produced saber, that's pretty awesome. Don't give in to the hate. I think it would make me happy to put the CFX in this, because then people would freak out. But I know, you know, the bottom line is once I install the CFX, it's going to sell. So I think I'm going to put the CFX in the Ultrasabers just to get everybody angry. So, you know, unless there's some massive vote, otherwise, after I publish this video, then, you know, this is probably going to get the Profi. I mean, the CFX in it, and then I'll put the Profi and the Kanan Jarus. We'll see. We'll see what everybody wants to do here. But, you know, the cool part is that saber is finished today. It's ready to ship out to California. I just got to order another clamp card from Sloth Furnace, so I screwed that one up, which really sucks. That's the joys of saber installing that most people don't see is, before you leave, I want to ask, have you ever installed a rolling chamber on a Profi? I have not. And he's talking about like a chamber with a motor in it on a Profi. I have not, but it can be done on a Profi. You have, you guys can't see the wiring diagrams behind me, but on a Profi you have voltage outputs on the Profi. You've got 3.3 volts and ground. So it depends on what voltage your motor is, but I mean, the hell, there's a 5-volt output on the Profi. All you need to do is wire the positive of the motor to the 5-volt pad, and then the negative to ground. The only problem with that is when you turn on the power to the Profi, I'm not sure if you wired it that way, if there's any way to make the motor stop or to make the motor turn off. So in other words, when you throw power to the Profi, that's going to keep on going, which is probably what you want anyway. I'm not really sure, what you're trying to achieve. There's probably a way to install a motor where it only comes on if the pixel comes on. Probably if you wired it to the FET that's driving, the crystal chamber pixel, I think that FET would control the I think it would turn off the. I don't know. I may have to ask Frederick on that one, but I know the bottom line is, I mean, it can be done. I know people that install rumble motors on Profi. I mean, nowadays with the modern speakers, I don't even know why anybody would need a rumble motor. I mean, these damn things, you don't need a rumble motor when you got a TCS speaker, because the whole freaking hilt shakes when you're holding it just from the speaker. It's so bad it's inducing clashes. But yeah, I mean, Profi definitely has ways where you could wire a motor to your crystal chamber, but I've never done one. Not really into motors on the crystal chambers. I kind of like static chambers. I think they look pretty cool. But I think it could be done. Anytime you start adding motors, oh my God, you talk about adding more cram foo area. Motors and gearboxes and everything needed to turn a rotating crystal chamber. You're starting to add a lot of cram foo. I know there's a bunch of guys out there like on Shapeways and stuff that actually sell, ready built printed chambers that are ready to go, and you just buy your motors off Amazon or eBay or whatever and wire them to the thing, and it goes. But I haven't done one, but yeah, it could be done. It can be done. It can definitely be done. But yeah, if you ask Frederick on TRA, there might be a way to hook the motor to a FET so that the motor shuts off when the FET's not running. Because other than that, if you just connect it to power, if you connect it to either the 3.3 or the 5-volt pad, it'll definitely run the motor. But I think the problem is that, your spinning crystal chamber will always be spinning as long as your saber's on. And, then you're talking about eating up your battery pretty quick with it doing that. But there's probably a way to wire it into the FETs where it'll only run like when you activate the saber and the crystal chamber comes on. And, of course, all that depends on how you're wiring your crystal chamber, but definitely might be something worth asking Frederick on TRA. And if anybody ever has any questions about Profi, that's really, he's just not a Facebook guy. He does not like Facebook. He does not like Facebook messaging. He won't answer Facebook messages. Keep it running. That's a cost of luxury. No, I mean, if you did that, it would run. Profi will output 3.3 or 5 volts. So it's just a matter of what you need there to drive that motor. I think most of those motors are like less than 3 volts, if I recall, that people are using to run those crystal chambers. So the 3.3 volt output pad would be fine. I mean, hell, for that matter, you could wire it direct to the battery positive, the positive on the motor, and then the negative on the motor you could run to board negative or board ground, And then when you kill power to the board, you would kill power to the motor. I mean, there's a bunch of ways to skin that cat. Hell, for that matter, you could also, where you're. I always use a white wire on the cutoff wire on the recharge ports. Here we are. We're going down the rabbit hole. Recharge port. Let's find a standard 2.1 millimeter recharge port. Yeah. Damn. Should have ordered some more from the custom saber shop. I only have one left. I only have one 2.1 millimeter recharge port left. But at any rate, on these, I'm trying to hold it up here in the light. On these Switchcraft recharge ports, this one leg that's got the SW on it, this is your cutoff leg. So when you put a kill key into there, it actually cuts negative power. That's how I wire them. I wire my red to the center pin, and I wire the SW leg as my cutoff leg, and then the other leg is my battery negative leg. But this cutoff leg, your white wire, I run a white wire off that cutoff leg. If you connected the positive on your motor to the direct to the battery, I mean, you could do a merge of, your positives in underneath the board or whatever in your chassis. And that would give positive to your motor, and then negative to your motor. You could run this out of the recharge port, the negative out of the recharge port, and keep Profi totally out of it. I mean, if you're okay with it spinning, you could go ahead and make those connections and merges without even involving the Profi. If you're okay with it spinning all the time, because I mean, that's all. The only thing you're going to be doing by hooking it to the Profi is the same thing. It's just you're using the board circuitry to make that circuit instead of doing the circuit in the cutoff of the recharge port and then direct to battery positive. And I mean, that's an option. That's certainly an option too, that you could do. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was just saying is, if you hook the positive of your motor up to the positive of your battery and then the negative to the cutoff leg on the recharge port, that way, as soon as you pulled your kill key out of the recharge port, that chamber, your chamber motor would be running, it was spinning. And the only thing that would stop it spinning is if you put in the kill key on the recharge port, and you can keep the board totally out of the equation by doing it that way. As a matter of fact, on my Transcendence, on my Dark Force Custom Sabers Transcendence, that's basically how I wired the illuminated switches on the Transcendence chassis. Was I wired them directly to basically the recharge port. Battery positive went to feed positive on those switches, and of course with the proper resistor on the negative legs. But then I ran those negative legs back and picked up the board cutoff wire, which I always run white because I always do it just like Mad Cow does. I mean, I use a white wire for my cutoff leg that feeds my board negative. But before it feeds my board, I actually ran the switch wire negative and did a junction and merger there, and that way I don't like multiple wires going into my soundboards. If I ever have a situation where I have 2 wires or 3 wires going on to the same pad, I'll put that merge in underneath the board or somewhere else in the hilt. I do my best that I only have 1 wire coming up to my board. If I'm feeding something off the board that's common to multiple components, then I'll do those merges somewhere in the hilt. So then I'll run a pigtail up into the board. By the time I get back to wiring in the board, it's very neat. I have 1 red positive going into my board. I have the 1 white negative feeding my board, which is from the cutoff leg of the recharge port, and then blue. I use blue wires for speaker wires. I use green for main switch, yellow for auxiliary switch, white's a common ground on the switches. And my NeoPixel is always a red 22 gauge wire for positive and a black 22 gauge wire for the negative feed for the NeoPixels. And then I either use orange or purple 26 gauge for my data. So pretty much when I go to wire a saber, I know what all my wires are. I know where they're going on the Profi. I don't even have to think about it. It's kind of like a done deal. And I wire them all the same, unless I run out of a color of wire. Like right now, I need to do a massive wire order uh, from PowerWorks, and I use all PTFE wiring my stuff. But at any rate, I don't want to bore anybody. We're going on 35 minutes here. I got to go get clothes out of the dryer. Getting ready to start my weekend. So that's cool. Let's sum it up. This piece of junk or this thing? Which should I put the CFX in? I'm thinking about this one, just because of all the stir it would create. I'm thinking about putting the Crystal Focus 10 in this and turning this into a baddest Ultra Sabers on the planet. Of course, I'm going to have to order a vented pommel from the custom saber shop. That's the one cool thing about Ultra Sabers is they're MHS compatible. So, I'll pop some vented pommel on there. One day, do a full tutorial of a NeoPixel install. Rich, I already have. If you go to my page on the, I got a section like Teensy Saber and Profi tutorial videos, and I did a full Profi install into a OWK. It was an OWK that was painted black. I didn't do it. The customer sent it to me like that. But yeah, Rich, I've already done a full Profi install video, including the NeoPixel install. Hell, I've even got a video on my tutorial page where I built a NeoPixel blade where I showed everybody how I do that. Gave away a lot of my secrets there, so it's out there. Yep. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't. I'm always putting a lot of tutorials and stuff out there. I mean, there's no secrets here. I mean, the more people that are installing sabers, the better. I'm not one of those guys like, oh my God, you're going to encroach on my business, because most people that call me, they get a no. I don't have availability. I don't take people's hilts until I'm ready to install them. Mostly now I'm just building sabers that I want to and selling them on the internet, because I don't need any more lightsabers. I'm pretty happy with what I got. So I'm just building for, selling them on the internet. I've got some customers that come back, but I'm going to open up my commission list probably in January. But right now I don't have any availability. But I'm not bashful about sharing stuff that I know with people, or how I do things, because there's nothing top secret. Electrical circuits are electrical circuits, and if you know how to make a circuit, then you're golden. That's half the battle. The pixies come out the battery through the negative, power whatever they're powering, and back through the positive line, back into the battery. LS6, curious to see it. You've been sitting on one forever. So here's my LS6. It's not installed. It's still empty. But I do have Gauss chassis for it with a brass crystal chamber. I know the one thing you're going to want to do on the LS6 is these doors, when they close, a lot of people, they really hate this line on the LS6, which it's fine if you build the LS6 into a V2, and you use the Graflex clamp here, because you don't see any of that. So the LS6 actually makes a pretty decent V2 saber, which is the shared stunt saber. But for the hero saber, when you're going to have these doors out, a lot of people don't like this line. Well, one way to get rid of that line is to Dremel these doors down here and here on both sides, and that way they close more fully. So that helps eliminate that line. But this one has it's got a Goth chassis in it. I just haven't installed it yet, but she's ready to install. It's ready to go. I just haven't done it yet. But yeah, that's my LS6. Now I have a custom board that is going in here that I got from, now you're putting me on the spot. Mad scientist. God knows. Okay, JB Kuma. Oh, Lord have mercy. JB Kuma made this cool NeoPixel board. It's a board that actually goes inside the control box, and it basically has NeoPixels that are lighting up these arrows, and then it has a space for the buttons. So that's why I kind of want to do Profi on this, because I don't think I can do subblades or anything else on CFX. At least not yet. I don't think Irv's enabled subblades on CFX. I mean, CFX was an answer that needed to happen from Plector Labs. You know, when he came out with Crystal Focus 9 and it didn't support NeoPixels, and at the time, NeoPixels were developing, and there were a bunch of NeoPixel sabers out there, and I think Irv was just waiting to see what the technology did. But then by the time it came out and the NeoPixels were going berserk, and then you had other things evolving at the same time. So Smooth Swing was kind of evolving at the same time as the NeoPixel technology was. And by the time I think Irv got his mess together, he was way further behind the curve than I think he wanted to be on NeoPixels. But I still think CFX, I would like Irv to eventually get more data pads available on the CFX so you could drive different NeoPixels doing different things. He still supports a lot of accent LED pads on CFX. And I think that's what's missing off the Profi is the ability to drive a bunch of different accent LEDs. And what I'd really like is, a mashup of what they both can do. The ability to drive several different NeoPixel blades at the same time, which is more complex in configuring the board to do that. And then the other issue is with Profi is Profi doesn't have the ability to on Profi you basically have to either choose NeoPixel or normal LEDs. If you choose normal LEDs, I think you can have 4 or 5 accent LEDs doing different things. But if you're doing a NeoPixel saber, you're basically stuck with NeoPixel accents, which NeoPixel accents are cool. I mean, you all saw what the NeoPixels are doing in here, doing a little Cylon thing. They're doing a cool effect. And, it would be real hard to do that with traditional LEDs. But even though I did that with Prism with traditional LEDs, but, there were only 4 of them. Or, there's 10 NeoPixels in that doing the Cylon thing. But I actually had, I wrote the LEDs text program in Prism so that it did that. And if you go back and look, if you look at my Jedi Saber installs, I did a Graflex with Prism 2 or 3 years ago, and that one did basically a Cylon effect with traditional LEDs in it. It went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then it did different things when you activated it. So that kind of stuff can be done with normal LEDs. It is a lot easier with NeoPixels, but I would kind of like to see the Profi kind of allow more standard LED configurations without losing NeoPixel capabilities. And I would like to see CFX allow for more NeoPixel blade outputs and more customization on multiple NeoPixel blades. But I guess that's where it gets complicated. But hey, yeah, the one button mod for Profi is pretty cool. The actually, if I install Profi in this Kanan Jarus, then I may do the one button mod. I run on all my Profi installs. I'm running the Matt McGreary. He's SA2CC on TRA, and I'm always running his fork in most of my sabers. And his fork's the one that has color changing in it. So Profis are all color changing now. So that's pretty cool deal there with Profi. But anyway, good Lord, what have we gone here? 43 minutes. That's too long. But we'll try to shoot more of these live videos. Hopefully I'll do them in a better time and get more people watching. And as always, if you see something in one of my videos where you got a question, just let me know and I'll try and answer it. So click that like button, like the video, subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell. There's a lot of stuff on my channel, a lot of useful tutorial videos for Profi, TNC Saber, and open source stuff. I'm not closed-minded on that. I install NEC boards, I install Plector boards, I install whatever you want. I mean, I understand how to wire them all up, so it ain't a big deal. But I think CFX is coming to this saber, which I'm going to get some shroud material and try to do something else to this thing. But this thing is going to CFX unless you guys vote differently. If you guys want the Kanan Jarus hilt Ultrasabers to be for that. This is a pretty awesome hilt. I mean, what do y'all think about that hilt? Reply in the comments. I mean, that is not a bad hilt. Here it is next to a Graflex 2.0 for size comparison. You know, I mean, it's not humongous. I like it. At any rate, that's it. That's enough for that video. So may the force be with you all, or the dark side, as it were.